who lies on a collision course with destiny.
I've tried so hard to get her out of my heart.
The Thornbirds, tomorrow.
Later tonight on Nightline with Ted Koppel, the Geneva Arms Talks. Why are the U.S. and the Soviet Union talking now? Why the extraordinary level of media coverage? And what effect is it likely to have?
Can the Soviets be trusted in arms negotiations? This is David Hartman, and tomorrow we'll try to find out. And we'll remember Elvis Presley on his 50th birthday with one of his co-stars, Nancy Sinatra, on Good Morning America.
Friday at 9, 8 Central, when a phantom driver terrorizes the city, it becomes the ultimate challenge for a street hawk.
I'm Peter Jennings in Geneva. Tomorrow on World News Tonight, the second day of talks between the United States and the Soviet Union. Will they lead to full-scale arms control negotiations? Will there be fewer nuclear weapons or another arms race?
Coming up, we've got a traveler's advisory.
And a quadruple homicide in Gates. Those stories next.
Arby's Adventure Meal, a junior roast beef, fries, and drink.
Look, I got Mr. Happy this time.
Check this Sunday's newspaper for Arby's money-saving coupons.
In my opinion, this is a great coffee. Bold, dark Nescafe Brava. But just because I like it doesn't make it right for you. And that's exactly why Nescafe created 4 custom blended coffees. For the first time, coffee made to taste your way. Bold, dark Brava, traditional classic. Smooth refined Silca, or natural decaf. Each one custom blended, each one visibly different. I've got mine. Now you decide. Which one's made to taste your way? Nescafe.
Now you can shine with the best of them on Weekend with the Stars telethon for cerebral palsy. 21 hours filled with spectacular entertainment. Hours of laughter, drama, music. See the biggest stars in show business joining in to make this year's Cerebral Palsy Telethon a huge success. Tune in right here to the United Cerebral Palsy Telethon and join in and shine with the best of them.
January 12th and 13th on WOKR 13.
Good evening, I'm Dick Burt.
And I'm Loretta Carroll. If you've been out on the roads tonight, you know that driving can be extremely hazardous. The National Weather Service has issued a traveler's advisory for tonight. So far, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow has fallen in parts of our viewing area, and there is more on the way.
The lake squalls have not set up yet, but when they do, some of us could see an additional 4 to 6 inches, while others only an inch or 2 by morning. Meteorologist Bill Peterson's in the Weather Center. He'll have more on the weather coming up later in the news.
Police investigators say it is the most horrible crime in local history. A mother and her 3 children murdered, the father charged with killing them. Robert Riley is being held without bail until he is examined by a psychiatrist.
A former colleague described Bob Riley as a nice guy who seemed to have everything together. This morning, police led Riley away in handcuffs, charged with murdering his wife and 3 children. His employer called police this morning. He said Riley had never been late for work, never missed a day. And when Riley called to say he wouldn't be in, the employer was sure something was wrong and called police.
The department received a call at approximately moments after 9 a.m. today from him, Mr. Riley's employer, asking that we check on his welfare, that he had not reported for work this morning, and that he had had a conversation with Mr. Riley and asked us to go and check on his welfare.
Outside 28 Walbert Drive, police found Riley. Whatever he said led them inside, where they found Riley's wife, Eileen Kane, their adopted children, 8-year-old Caitlin and 6-year-old Corey, and their youngest daughter, Megan, who was 3. News of their deaths shook the quiet Gates neighborhood.
It's sick. It's sick that somebody could do that. Very sweet, very nice. I like her a lot. Oh my, is she the one who's dead or is it the husband? Oh my God.
Police have not said how the children and their mother were murdered. A blood-stained hammer and knife were taken from the house. Sometime tomorrow, the medical examiner will release more information on the 4 murders. It is possible that a grand jury will hear the evidence against Robert Riley. by the end of the week.
An alleged parole violator was arraigned in his hospital room today. Carlos Hernandez is recovering from a gunshot wound he received in a confrontation with parole officers. 4 parole officers had gone to pick up Hernandez when the incident occurred on North Street last Saturday. A grand jury will investigate the shooting to see if there was any misconduct. Parole officials say they're bound by the same guidelines as police officer when deadly physical force is used. Last month, a fire at a Geneseo fraternity house killed a 21-year-old student. The owners of the house said today fraternity brothers had been told to look for a new place to live next year because of the damage that had been done to the house. As Doug Emblidge reports, the landlords say they're doing everything they can to avoid renting to a fraternity in the future.
An investigators report blamed the fire on a malfunction in the electrical system. 21-year-old Greg Bender of Syracuse died in the blaze. Now, the brothers of Phi Kappa Sigma have placed an ad in the Geneseo Drummer, asking for help finding a new place to live. The landlord said today they had told the fraternity members before the fire that this would be their last year in the house.
Fraternities are a difficult thing to control. The house ends up a party house for those that are in the fraternity but not living there. And unfortunately, even the boys that live within the house can't control the conditions.
The residents of the house that burned down, you mentioned a series of problems with them as far as keeping the grounds neat and keeping the house in shape. You told them that they were not going to be coming back next year?
It has been a constant battle all year trying to get them to clean up. I had told them on several different occasions this year already that they would not be getting the house back because they hadn't changed the situations there. They had been told to clean up garbage, not just outside of the property, but inside of the house.
Gary and Beverly Least say they spent $50,000 repairing their 8 student rental properties last summer. They showed us before and after pictures showing the damage they say is done by students. The Least say they regularly inspect the houses they own for damage and fire hazards.
We check for this on all the inspections, and they're told time and time again. But they always think, well, this one time, what's it going to hurt? And then that's when an accident occurs.
The Livingston County Fire Coordinator says coins were found in the fuse box of this house. Putting coins in a fuse box is a way of bypassing the fuse. It prevents the fuse from doing its job of blowing when there's an overload on the system, and it can be very dangerous.
It's a very stupid thing to do, to be honest with you.
Fire Coordinator Dave Harder says his investigation of the blaze is complete.
It's hard to determine who actually put the penny in there. There's no way of knowing. I couldn't tell. And I don't know of anybody else that can really tell unless the person admitted to doing it, and I don't think you'll ever see that.
A police spokesman said today it is doubtful any criminal charges will be filed in connection with the fire. Doug Emblidge, WOKR News.
A spokesman for the Phi Kappa Sigma fraternity said tonight someone from their national office had complained to the landlord before the fire about conditions at the house. But Beverly Least says that fraternity official actually agreed with her that the residents were not caring for the house properly. John Cronak of the Phi Sigma Kappa says students are planning a forum later this month to discuss landlord-tenant relations.
Fan turnout was light this afternoon for the first city basketball game since the partial lifting of the spectator ban went into effect. The Edison-Jefferson game had been rescheduled when the ban on night games went into effect. A few parents were in attendance today, but other fans who were not students at either school were turned away when they failed to show proper identification. The basketball season continues through the first week of March. There's been no indication that the ban on outside fans will be lifted before that time. Governor Cuomo will make details of his proposed tax cut public on Wednesday during his State of the State address. Sources close to the governor say the cut will call for a 3-year, $1 billion cut, along with ways to reduce the top tax on personal income from 10 to 9%. Cuomo's State of the State address will mark the first day of the 208th legislative session.
Legislators at the new session are under fire already by a Ralph Nader group. Albany lawyer is the leader of the group to combat the legislators' new pay raise. Last month, the state lawmakers voted themselves a 30% pay hike from $32,000 a year to $43,000. The Nader group says it'll form a committee against legislative pay raises, and they recruit members from across the state.
Well, coming up next on the news, the eyes of the world are on Geneva this week.
We'll have a report on the U.S.-Soviet talks when we return.
In the final countdown to 1985, time is money. One last shot at gold medal savings in '84. Right now at Hallman Chevrolet. Price is your incentive. The January 1st inventory tax is ours. Save up to $1,300 on a new '85 Celebrity. Up to $1,800 on a new '85 Chevy Blazer. But the clock is ticking, so go for the gold. Now at your gold medal Chevy dealer, Hallman Chevrolet.
On the next Love Boat.
What do I find outside my door? Jack the Ripper.
Is there any chance I might be a werewolf?
If you catch him, clap him in irons. I want him chained and helpless. Me too.
I'm cute, I'm bright, and I'm a very good provider.
D-U-L-L.
Yeah, well, they ought to know.
Oh! We're on a floating massage parlor.
Weekdays at 4 on WOKR 13.
Exactly what they said is being kept a secret, but twice today, U.S. and Soviet officials met in Geneva, Switzerland to discuss curbing the nuclear arms race. We have more from ABC.
Delegates gathered early today from the United States and the Soviet Union to begin preliminary arms talks. Secretary of State George Shultz and Soviet Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko are in Geneva with their delegations to discuss the possibility of resuming formal nuclear arms talks. The morning session was held at the Soviet mission and lasted 3.5 hours. Both sides have experienced negotiators and diplomats present. For the U.S., Robert McFarlane and Paul Nitze. For the Soviets, Anatoly Dobrynin. After a 2.5-hour lunch, the afternoon session lasted for 3 hours. At the end of a long day before an evening banquet, Gromyko said in English to reporters that it was too early to say anything about the meetings.
Oh, best. A little bit too early.
Shultz and Gromyko continued to make small talk and even joked with each other.
Shake hands against your pussy. Gentlemen, we are going to the left. We are going to the left with the secretary.
There has been no substantive information about the outcome of today's meeting, which was described as businesslike. It was the first arms meeting since the last U.S.-Soviet parley 13 months ago. Both sides will meet again tomorrow. Phyllis Haynes, ABC News.
The U.S. is seeking Soviet cooperation on another unrelated matter. NASA officials confirm that they would like to set up a simulated space rescue with Soviet cosmonauts. The simulations would allow the Soviets and Americans to practice using each other's equipment if an emergency ever occurred. NASA officials are in Geneva and will make a proposal to the Soviets later this week. Well, there is a nationwide manhunt on tonight to capture an escapee from a mental institution in Baltimore. A man accused of rape, breaking and entering, weapons offenses, and other charges has escaped from the institution where he was being treated. Officials are not releasing the name of the man because of confusion over his real and the lack of medical records at the hospital. Maryland officials, along with the FBI, are involved in that search.
Geraldine Ferraro's husband was indicted today in Manhattan. John Zaccaro faces 1 count of scheming to defraud. We have more from ABC.
District Attorney Robert Morgenthau released the indictments charging John Zaccaro and another New York man with inflating the value of some city apartment buildings and of altering an appraisal on them to help get a $15 million loan for a real estate developer. Zaccaro stood to make a healthy commission.
In November of 1983, the defendant signed and issued a written instrument which set forth his net worth as $21,640,000, which was materially inaccurate, and that the defendant's actual net worth at that time was no more than $4 million, as he well knew.
As Morgenthau and other New York officials indicated that Zaccaro's legal problems may be just beginning, the husband of the former Democratic vice presidential candidate went to court to plead guilty to just 1 misdemeanor fraud charge, a move the judge in the case says is part of a deal. But Zaccaro's lawyer, Arthur Lyman, denies there was any plea bargaining.
Pleading guilty, and there was no deal made other than the court said what anyone would have expected, that he is not going to be given any term of imprisonment, that he is going to be subject to at most a fine.
John Zaccaro faces sentencing next month. Bob Windsor, ABC News.
If you'd like to see more snow, be patient. There's more on the way.
And meteorologist Bill Peterson will have all the details next from the Weather Center.
Come on, baby, let the good time roll. Come on, baby, let me thrill your soul. Come on, baby, let the good time roll. Roll all night long.
There's the jackpot. There's the red pin. He could also get a bike on this second strike. Come on, make it good.
All right, he got it. Roll all night long.
Bowling for Dollars now, weeknights at 7 on WOKR 13.
Now you can shine with the best of them on Weekend with the Stars telethon for cerebral palsy. 21 star-studded hours filled with spectacular entertainment, hours of laughter, music, drama, all the biggest, brightest stars contributing their talents to help people with cerebral palsy, the nation's #1 disabling condition. And United Cerebral Palsy needs your help, too, for the tens of thousands of children and adults with this disability. So get ready for a weekend of the best and the brightest. Join us in making this year's Weekend with the Stars our biggest success yet. It's your chance to shine with the best of them. Tune in right here for Weekend with the Stars telethon.
January 12th and 13th on WOKR 13.
For the price of a pizza and a soft drink, you can feed an African child for 1 month. For the price of a family dinner, you can feed an African family for 1 month. For the price of a luncheon for business executives, you can feed an African village for 1 month. It's a small price to pay. So give to the African Famine Relief Campaign at your local American Red Cross chapter.
For further information, call 461-9800.
Well, it's pretty slippery outside and getting slipperier.
It's very pretty, too, isn't it, Bill?
It is. It's a beautiful winter evening out there, light, fluffy snow. However, there is a traveler's advisory in effect that was issued by the National Weather Service earlier this evening, and it looks like it will be continued the rest of tonight. Our high temperature today, 29 degrees. Our low so far, 26. Average temperatures for this day, 31 and 17, and a record set back in 1930 and 1942. With snow now being reported at the airport as well as around most of our viewing area, we've had reports of anywhere from 1 inch to about 4 inches as you move to the south. Temperatures are 26 degrees, the humidity high at 86%. Winds are beginning to switch now out of the northwest at 5 miles an hour, and our pressure is falling. Temperatures across western New York, not a big change from 6 o'clock, but again, it is even more apparent what is going on around the area. Look at the temperatures, relatively warm in through western New York. By that I mean relatively warm if you compare them what it is north of the lake. Trenton is 5 degrees, Kingston 3, and Watertown 1 degree. And again, that cold Arctic air is just poised up here waiting to move to the south into the Rochester area. That will happen towards morning, and as that happens, our temperatures in Rochester and the viewing area will drop down into the high teens tonight. We won't get out of the teens tomorrow, and they'll drop down into the single digits tomorrow night. So this air that is poised north of the lake tomorrow will be into western New York. So get out the firewood, get out the blankets. You're going to need them. It is going to get cold. Our satellite photo, you can see cloud cover from almost coast to coast. A lot of cloudiness up in through Rochester, in through the Ohio Valley. The only clear area is down along the Gulf Coast. A lot of cloudiness also back in through the western states. In fact, a mixture of rain and snow in through this area, heavier snow up in the mountain areas, cloud cover in through most of the midsection of the country, and although we aren't showing any heavy precipitation in the northeast, we do have flurries and light snow. In fact, if we go to live radar now, you can see what is happening right now around Rochester. Live radar shows that we are surrounded by lighter snow. The darker blue areas that you see surrounding the Rochester area, a little bit heavier snow at times, and again, amounts range from about 1 inch to as much as 3 to 4 inches as you move south in through Livingston County. Scattered showers also up over the lake and more snow over towards Syracuse, and again, it came down pretty fast and furious there for a while in the Rochester area at the rate of about 1 inch an hour. It is now light. In fact, if it keeps snowing the way it is right now, which it will probably do for another 2 to 3 hours, it looks like we'll get another inch or 2 by morning. However, we're going to have some squalls setting up, and that means several inches in some areas. Our current map looks like this. 2 lows. one that has now moved well to the east of us, another one still back to the west. Now, what's going to happen is that this low is going to slide through the Rochester area. Temperatures will stay relatively warm in through western New York, but as that low continues to move through, it's going to trail this cold front through. Winds will be coming out of the north by morning, and that means colder temperatures. That means lake effect snow, and that means heavy snow by morning. Here's what tomorrow morning's map will look like. That cold front has now moved well to the south, but again, we look for some lake squalls sitting up around the Rochester area. And again, the way the winds are, it looks like those flurries and squalls could get into Livingston County, into Genesee County, Wyoming County, and again, we could see some heavier snow in those areas, anywhere from about 4 to 6 inches by late tomorrow afternoon. Here's what the forecast looks like inwards tonight. A traveler's advisory in effect. Most of us will see an additional inch or two, but however, where those squalls do set up by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, some of us could see 2 to 4 inches of snow. Northwest winds will blow it around. The temperatures 15 to 20. And then for Tuesday, more snow, more flurries, an additional 2 to 6 inches is possible. Northwest winds 15 to 30. A lot of blowing and drifting. The flurries continue, but little accumulation tomorrow night. The big story, 6 to 11 degrees for the lows. For Wednesday, partly cloudy, and our temperatures will not get out of the teens. Driving very hazardous out there. Traveler's advisory in effect.
Thank you very much, Bill. Yes. Well, if you have a home computer, you may be able to save yourself on postage.
You could save by computing a letter instead of mailing one.
Next, Granddad protects granddaughter from a dangerous dog.
I was injured trying to save my granddaughter from the dog.
Granddaughter relives the incident.
What did your grandpa do?
Well, he flew up in the air.
Flew up in the air?
Landed on the ground.
Ouch.
Well, I sprained my ankle in the process.
The defendant is skeptical.
And the dog never attacked anybody.
The People's Court, weekdays at 5:30 on WOKR 13.
The evidence in this case will show that Mrs. Walker was a dutiful and faithful wife.
Now, weeknights at 5 o'clock on WOKR 13, the drama of divorce court.
Mrs. Walker, Your Honor, is an adulteress.
I was always faithful to him.
I didn't have a lover.
I yearned for her. Just to find out that she's been real busy with someone else.
These are people with no shame at all.
Divorce Court, weeknights at 5 on WOKR 13.
If you have a home computer, you just may be able to save yourself the cost of postage.
Several firms are now competing against the Postal Service for a new way to send mail. We have this report from Randy Ripplinger in Portland, Oregon.
If you have a personal computer of any brand, you can get your own electronic mailbox. The mailbox is simply your name, address, and a couple of passwords and code numbers filed into the memory of a central computer. When someone wants to send you a letter, they just type it out on their computer and have the computer dial up your electronic address over a phone line. Then his letter is recorded into the central computer's memory under your address and code number. You get it back much the same way. Dial your personal password and code, and the letter is fed back to you.
Several executives travel with portable computers nowadays that you can dial in from any payphone, any hotel room, anything like that to access your mailbox. So it's unlimited where you can access it. You need not have one dedicated to the system.
Western Union's email system will cost about 45 cents a page, more than a U.S. post office letter, but it only takes a couple of seconds to get across town or across the country. Other companies, RCA, AT&T, ITT, and MCI, vary in their rates too, but are all more than a postage stamp. And they all have another concern in common: the war games type of computer hacker who could, theoretically at least, open your mail electronically.
As any system, there are a lot of people out there who are attempting to break codes and break systems. We so far have been very successful in eliminating that, strictly because the password and the username is confidential. And if indeed you found somebody accessing for any reason your mailbox by mistake, you could change that with one quick phone call.
But electronic mail is still tougher to open than an envelope. And even the email companies admit they won't replace the mailman.
There will never be a replacement for the letter. As much as I use EasyLink and email systems today, I always have that need to send a letter. There will always be the letter. It will never replace that, because not everybody has the need to go out and get a computer
You won't need a computer to send your mail in the near future, but with postal rates increasing and electronic mail getting cheaper, more consumers may soon reach out and touch someone by keyboard. This is Randy Ripplinger reporting.
Fred Cowgill here now with our headlines.
Now, that Super Bowl may seem a couple weeks away, but we're going to show you how it's just around the corner. That plus a great basketball game tonight with St. John's, so stay with us.
Hope we're going to a New Year's Eve party.
I'd prefer an office party.
I want to go to a kid's party.
McDonald's Chicken McNuggets 20-pack. Tender chunks of chicken. The life of any holiday party.
How do I look?
Delicious. Golden brown is your color.
Whoopee! Let's go to a sleigh ride party.
It's a good time for the great taste.
Parties, parties.
Oh.
That's all you 20-packs ever think of.
Jim Sandy Chevrolet, your good neighbors in Greece, have Rochester's best selection of 1985 Chevy celebrities. Today's Chevy celebrity sets new standards for precision, performance, and style. And Jim Sandy Chevrolet sets new standards for service, selection, and price. And what a price. Right now, Jim Sandy has fully equipped 85 celebrities starting as low as $88.89. See the all-new 85 Chevys at Jim Sandy Chevrolet, 1110 Stone Road, Greece. Good neighbors make good deals.
Now you can shine with the best of them on Weekend with the Stars telethon for cerebral palsy. 21 hours filled with spectacular entertainment, hours of laughter, drama, music. See the biggest stars in show business joining in to make this year's cerebral palsy telethon a huge success. Tune in right here to the United Cerebral Palsy Telethon and join in and shine with the best of them.
January 12th and 13th on WOKR 13.
Fred Cowgill here with sports. I guess this week will be a whole guessing game.
Oh, yeah, people have already been coming up to me. Who do I like? 49ers, Miami, and of course I say one and I'm wrong. I say the other and I'm wrong, so I'm just going to keep quiet for a couple weeks.
I don't believe it.
Well, I'm going to take a shot at it anyway. Thanks a lot, pal. Some of you may have had the chance to see a truly artistic dismantling of the Chicago Bears' defense by San Francisco Sunday, but what you didn't get to see was how tough the 49ers crowd was after the game. Not even Montana wanted to face this bunch. Like Mets fans during the Miracle of '69, everybody wanted a piece of something to remember the moment by, so all of Candlestick Park was fair game. The natural turf was simply the easiest thing to grab. Luckily for San Francisco, Super Bowl 19 is at Stanford. For this stuff, we'll need a year to recuperate.
I was extremely uneasy the day before the game, very uneasy. Now, I did, just because of anticipating what was about to happen, because we knew that we were going into the unknown with that defense. We had concepts that we were very sure of, but who's to say that they actually will, when put into play, will be effective? And in this particular case, they were. But the day before the game, I, had to go out and play a little tennis and take a pill or something to relax.
Okay. In Miami, fans were lined up since early this morning for their shot at the trip to California. Season ticket holders got first crack, but everybody's making out this time around. Well, San Francisco area fans are getting extra allocations of tickets with the Super Bowl nearby, so do Miami fans.
In the game with the speed of the receivers that we have, we can go upfield on them and put pressure on their deep safeties, and we were able to do that in some cases, yes.
Of course, the Super Bowl isn't for another 2 weeks yet, but from this point on, every day the game will seem moments away, what with the overwhelming media coverage. ABC has decided to go with Washington quarterback Joe Theismann as the color guy for their first Super Bowl broadcast, so Dandy Don, Meredith, and OJ get the boot. Also, it's obvious Niners head coach Bill Walsh's heart is left in San Francisco. He just signed up to coach another 3 years. And although it may not sound like it, there is life among the league's other 26 teams. In fact, St. Louis owner Bill Bidwell says he's thinking of moving the Cardinals before congressional legislation outlaws it. Bidwell's not crazy about Busch Stadium's relatively small capacity of just under 52,000. He's already talked with 2 cities, and you can bet Phoenix is one. They've already been jilted brides twice to the Colts and Eagles. Arizona money and Arizona State's 72,000-seat stadium are big draws. Looks like Heisman winner Mike Rozier will be running for the Baltimore Stars this spring. He'd been with the now busted U.S. Football League franchise in Pittsburgh. They're now merged with the Stars, but it figures to be a crowded backfield with Kelvin Bryant also on the team. One top 10 college basketball game tonight. Number 4 St. John's in white and in trouble against a very tough Villanova. The Cats are up by 6 at half with this bucket. But that 37-31 lead goes right down the tubes when the Redmen roar to a 10-0 string, 10 unanswered points. Bill Whittington with 15 points, including some offensive goaltending that counts anyway. St. John's with a 9-point lead and an eventual 76-71 win. They are now 10-1 on the season. Also, St. Bonnie beats Widner 56-55. Syracuse is home Tuesday with BC. One area basketball game, Section 5 ball, was 7th-ranked Edison at Jefferson. The first city game with fans since School Superintendent Laval Wilson's modified fan ban took. Edison and the Darker Tops had a tough time with Jefferson. A close game despite Kirk Sanders scoring a game-high 26 points for Tech. Edison eventually taking their 6th win in 9, though, 56-44 over Jefferson. The new top 10 has everybody's number 1 with 8 wins in as many tries. That's East. Then it's Franklin up from 4th, McQuaid, Mendon, and Gates-Chili up from 8th. Webster is 6th, then Edison, Clyde, Olympia in the poll, and Canandaigua is 10th. Pro Bowl in New York, the Knicks in white against the ever-tough Boston Celtics. New York's league-leading scorer, Bernard King, with a surprisingly low 22 points. Low for Bernard, but he still gets a couple points there. He's been bothered by a groin pull. For Boston, it was Larry Parrish with 19 first-half points, 21 on the night. Larry Bird helping out with a game-high 26 as Boston beats New York 108-97. In Philadelphia, it was the Sixers coming up in white against Phoenix. The Suns, great defense causing the Sixers problems. Larry Nance helping out right there and getting the ball and the bucket for 21 points at the other end. But the Phillies got some tough defense as well. The Sixers' Andrew Toney helping out and getting the ball and getting the basket. He gets 21 points as Philadelphia just gets by Phoenix 100-99. Some updates for you. Golden State now in a final losing at Kansas City 110-101. Utah in the first losing at LA 21-12. And Dallas beating Seattle 27-20 in the first. NHL action. Los Angeles and the Darker Sweaters at Boston Garden against the Bruins, down 2-1 in the third when the Kings come up with 3 goals. Jim Fox hitting for his 19th of the season for a 4-3 LA lead. Boston back to force overtime when Kenny Lindsman happens to be in the right place at the right time. That happens to be in front of the net. They're tied at 4. And with just 39 seconds left in the overtime, it is the Bruins for the clincher. Charlie Simmer, the ex-King, just traded to Boston this year, makes it 5-4 Boston over LA in overtime. One other game tonight, Hartford beating Toronto 7-4. And that is sports.
A whole week and you won't guess, huh?
2 weeks, and I'm going to wait a little while.
A little while, we'll see. Coming up next, a visit to college. Marty Griffin will have that story and a look at the weather when we come back.
Have a seat, Mr. Monster. Initials C.
Ah, you'd like to go to London, terrific, Paris, Mexico, China, Italy, Transylvania. Why, you're going around the world.
Yes, it's the new Sesame Street Live stage show featuring all your favorite characters, bringing the whole world home to you.
Cash or charge?
Cookie!
You changed, sir.
Coming to the Rochester War Memorial January 9th through the 13th. Tickets are at the box office and Ticketron.
Think sensible, think Kotex. Think new, think thin. Think sensible, think Kotex.
From Kotex, new thins.
Now Kotex makes a thin maxi pad. It's thin, sure, and has the protection you expect from a Kotex product. What's more, it costs less than other national brands.
Think sensible, think Kotex. Think new, think thin.
The new thin maxi from Kotex. Trusted protection, sensibly priced.
Come on, baby, let me thrill your soul. Come on, baby, let the good time roll. Roll all night long.
There's the jackpot. There's the red pin. He could also get a bike on this second strike. Come on, make it good.
All right, he got it. Roll all night long. Bowling for Dollars now, weeknights at 7 on WOKR 13.
It's never too late to follow a dream, and that could be the motto of adults who decide to return to college or to even begin it for the first time. Marty Griffin reports tonight on some students who are considering just that.
The trend in enrollment of traditional freshman students at many institutions of higher learning, such as St. John Fisher College, is downward. So, adult students are becoming even more important, and colleges are reaching out to encourage adults to do what they've always wanted to do. For some, it means a better job.
To plan for my future. I'm employed by the company that I'd like to be employed for. Now I'm looking to advance within the company and and the company, you know, take advantage of the benefits that the company offers.
For others, the value cannot be described so concretely. Diane Lee says going back to college has already meant a better job for her, but now she wants to take some courses that have nothing to do with her profession.
I'd like to come back and take some additional courses just for my own satisfaction, and that interests me personally.
Whatever one's reason for returning to college, it takes courage for an adult to take the time out from working and do it. But those people who have made that decision say it's worth it. Marti, Griffin, WOKR News.
Now we'll check in with meteorologist Bill Peterson.
There is a travel advisory in effect that will be continued at least to the morning. It looks like we'll have flurries and probably some lake squalls setting up at drive time. Temperatures 19 degrees.
Thank you, Bill.
Good news for the skiers, huh?
Right, right.
About time. Wanda Miller will have our first news of the day at about 6:25. Then Don Alhart will have the news at noon.
Don will join me at 6 o'clock for the early edition of WOKR News, and we'll be back again tomorrow night at 11, right?
That's right.
Good night, everyone.
Coming up on Nightline with Ted Koppel, the Geneva Arms Talks. Why are the U.S. and the Soviets meeting now? Why the extraordinary media coverage? And what effect is it likely to have? Guests include a Soviet official and a former deputy director of the CIA.
Godiva was a freedom rider. She didn't care if the whole world looked. Joan of Arc with the Lord to guide her. She was a sister who really cooked. Isadora was the first bra burner. Ain't you glad she showed up? Oh, yeah! And when the country was falling apart, Betsy Ross got it all sewed up.
And then there's Maud.
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 And then there's Maud. That uncompromising, enterprising, anything but tranquilizer. Right on, Maud.
Hi, kids. I brought you something to read on the plane.